What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Talking Pigskin Week 7 edition. As always, I'm your host, Kishwar. We begin with some unfortunate news, which is I went 6-8 last week. Usually I've been getting 13 or 12 games right. But last week was filled with upsets, which is what's great about the NFL, which is why we love to watch NFL Red Zone on Sundays. However, when I'm making these picks, it makes me look bad, but it is what it is. My lock of the week was the Texans. They pulled it off against the Browns. And my upset was the Rams. They also took down the Jaguars. So it was a rough week. I'm hoping to bounce back. I'm also hoping the Jets would bounce back after that brutal loss. Because they should have won that game. I almost said victory. They jumped on an early lead, but with no lead is safe with the New York Jets, as we all know as Jet fans. The Tom Brady was going to eventually come back and tie the game up, which he did at the end of second quarter. I wish it hadn't happened under those circumstances where McCann forced the ball to Robbie and got intercepted and gave Brady enough time to tie the game. But in third quarter with that the fourth quarter, the blown touchdown, it's going to haunt the Jets for a while. I just hope they have enough characters in the locker room to turn the team around from that. They said all the right things after the game, including Coach Bowles, but who knows? It could be in the back of their mind next time they're on the field on Sunday against the Dolphins. So hopefully they'll be able to move past that. But anyways, let's jump on to Week 7. And the first game we have is the Kansas City Chiefs traveling to Oakland to take on the Raiders. Now, who would have thunk it? The Raiders lost 4 straight. Yes, Derek Carr did miss a couple of those games. So that does take a lot out of that team. They're not much without him. So I'm going to pick them to bounce back against Kansas City, who's coming off from a loss as well. Alex Smith had a decent game. He didn't have the best game. But it seems like the Pittsburgh Steelers always have the Chiefs' number. And this is the second time in a row they beat them. Last year was in the playoffs, and last Sunday they beat them as well. As much as Kareem Hunt is carrying this team along with Chris Conley and Travis Kelce, I don't think they can go to the black hole when Derek Carr is finally healthy, and he's going to have to bounce back. 4 straight loss is not acceptable for this Raiders team. They need to win this game to stay alive in the division as well. So I'm going to pick the Raiders over Chiefs. Moving on to Sunday's games, and the very first game we have is the New York Jets taking on the Miami Dolphins. Now, Miami came back from a huge deficit against the Falcons. They were down 17-0, but then again, we all know Atlanta can't hold on to a lead. But as for Jay Cutler, he did all right in second half. First quarter and second quarter, he was just horrible himself. But second half, when the Falcons gave him that breathing room, he took advantage of it and brought the team back. So good for him. I don't see that continuing against the Jets on Sunday. Yeah, shocker. I'm actually picking the Jets this week because the Jets defense can actually tame Jay Cutler as they did back in week 3. Jay Ajayi hasn't gotten going, and sure, Jets run defense isn't great, but I think they can control him knowing that Jay Cutler doesn't really have the arm. Well, he does have the arm, but he just doesn't. He looks at it first read and he just throws the ball. He's just not fully into it anymore. But Miami defense is playing well. It's going to be a defensive battle, but I'm going to expect Josh McCown to pull out this game and guide the Jets to a victory. Moving on to Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Buffalo Bills. This is going to be a very good game. I think both teams match up pretty well. Buffalo Bills are coming off a bye week, and Buccaneers are coming off a tough loss against the Cardinals. Jameis Winston went out, but Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of rallied the team back a little bit. I'm not sure who's starting this game, but no matter whoever starts, I think I'm going to go ahead and pick the Buffalo Bills at home. They're a hard team to beat at home. Tyrod Taylor has a great supporting cast around him because the offense is really dumbed down to just basic run and pass plays, so they do a good job on that. The defense has been balling all year long. As for the Buccaneers, they should be better than their record, 2-3. With Jameis Winston out, I'm not sure if Fitzpatrick will be able to beat him. Even though he did beat the Bills when he was a Jets quarterback, I'm not sure if he can do it as a Buck. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Bills to win this game. Moving on to the next game, and that is the Panthers traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. Now, Bears upset the Ravens last week. Mitch Trubisky, as a rookie, he hasn't been very bad, so got to give props where it's due. He hasn't been Deshaun Watson good, but he has been solid. He's been guiding the team well. Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard is balling out all year long, and I expect that to continue. However, Panthers, Cam Newton, they coming off a horrible loss against the Eagles because they got all the calls from the refs going to their way. And Cam Newton, you want to talk about routes, he couldn't find his routes on Thursday night. So, funny how things work, right, Cam? But I expect them to bounce back, take down the Bears handily, just because they're just simply the superior team in this matchup. Moving on to Tennessee Titans taking on the Cleveland Browns. Marcus Mariota came back, even though they struggled the first 3 quarters against the Colts. Fourth quarter, they were able to pull away to victory. As for the Browns, they're the Browns. I think Kaiser is back in the starting line. I'm not sure if Hogan is starting again. But I thought they'd be better, but they're not, which is unfortunate. They're going to drop to 0-7, and I think Titans will easily win this game. Decker finally came alive last week, so I hope that continues for him. Moving on to the New Orleans Saints and Green Bay Packers. The Packers are done. Unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers is the Green Bay Packers, and without him, they're nothing. And we're going to find out very fast on Sunday when Drew Brees goes there and lights that team up. Brett Hundley, we don't have much tape on him. We know he was solid in UCLA. Been backing up Rodgers for a few years now. Hopefully he learned a thing or two, and we'll find out on Sunday. But other than that, I don't give them much shot. I think Drew Brees and the Saints will roll all over the Packers. Moving on to Jacksonville Jaguars and Indianapolis Colts. I'm not sure, but I did hear Andrew Luck could be done for the year. If that's the case, I don't think Colts are going anywhere. Even though Jacoby Brissett is serviceable, I don't think he can carry the team to postseason. As for the Jaguars, they had Rams at home and they couldn't get it done. Leonard Fournette got hurt, so that's a big deal. They have Chris Ivory. They also have TJ Yeldon, so they have to rely on them a lot more. Getting the Colts this week is good for them because they can actually bounce back. Jaguars defense has been playing really well, and I hope that continues for them. Moving on to Arizona Cardinals taking on the LA Rams. Now, this is a 1 o'clock game. Remember, it's 2 West Coast teams, but this game is in London. So it's a 6 o'clock start, I believe, in London time. This should be a very good game. Aiden Peterson came back to life last week. Fitzgerald, AP, and Palmer all had good games last week, making it look like it was 2009 season when they were all at their prime. It was really good to see them. I'm really happy for AP. Actually, having my fantasy team, made the mistake of not starting him last week. Not going to do that again this week. I think he will be continuing his streak from last week. As for the Rams, Jared Goff is still playing very good this year. Last week he didn't do much because there was a lot of special teams and defensive touchdowns, but I think he will be able to take the Rams to the playoffs this year. I know they're 4-2 and it's a long way to go, but I'm starting to come around that team. But for this week, I'm going to pick the Cardinals just because they're in a hot streak right now and I expect that to continue. Moving on to Baltimore Ravens taking on Minnesota Vikings. Vikings, Anthony Barr, I'm not sure how he feels, but I think he just won the division for his team last week when he took out Aaron Rodgers. The Viking defense is relentless, and Joe Flacco is going to find out the hard way. Case Keenum or Sam Bradford, whoever he put in back there, they just got to be serviceable enough. Even though they lost Dalvin Cook, Jeremy McKinnon has been solid for them. Laquan Treadwell had a great catch last week, so the receivers are not too bad. The Vikings are going to be hard to beat at home. As for the Ravens, coming off a loss against the Bears, looks really bad on them. John Harbaugh, I think he's starting to lose control of this team because they were very disciplined a couple of years ago. Everyone went to the Super Bowl. Now they make a lot of mental mistakes. Flacco hasn't been the same, so I don't know what's going on with them. So I'm going to take the Vikings on Sunday. Moving on to the 4 o'clock games, and the first game we have is the Cowboys taking on the 49ers. Coming off a bye week, I expect Cowboys to be well rested and go to San Francisco and take care of business. There's not much to say about 49ers yet. Rookie CJ Beathard took over the game last week. Ryan Hoyer needed to be sat down. The 49ers offense has been all right, but they just can't catch any breaks, so I don't think they'll get any this week as well. Cowboys all over them. Moving on to Bengals taking on the Steelers. Now this is going to be a good game. Steelers offense needs to wake up. Yes, they won last week, but Le'Veon Bell has been doing his thing, but the entire offense needs to click. Big Ben Roethlisberger needs to find his receivers more often. Martavis Brown already requested for a trade. Not sure if that's going to happen. But Antonio Brown and company he's been good, but it's the rest of the receivers that need to step up for them. As for the Bengals, coming off a bye, 2-3, Dalton and AJ Green needs to connect more. They have Tyler Kroft at tight end. With Tyler Eifert out, he's been a pleasant surprise. Use Mixon, Bernard, and Jeremy Hill. I think Bengals can pull it off if they can stick to basics and not try to do too much, but I don't think at Heinz Field that was possible. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game. Moving on to Denver Broncos taking on the San Diego Chargers. Wow, I just made a mistake. It's the LA Chargers. Now, I can't believe the Broncos lost last week. That should have never... That looks really bad on them. Coming off a bye week, they probably thought less of the Giants, and they just mailed it in. I expect them to bounce back, but I don't think that's going to be easy. Going to face Phillip Rivers, who won the last 2 games. Finally, he deserves it more than anyone. He loses way too close games. The Chargers have been looking good the last couple of weeks, and I expect that to continue. They will take care of the Broncos, and the Phillip Rivers will finally move on to 3-game winning streak. Moving on to Seattle Seahawks taking on the New York Giants. Hawks coming off a bye week, traveling to the East Coast. Shouldn't be a problem because they're well rested. I think the offensive line is to get it together. We have 2 offensive lines here who aren't very good. Let's hope they get to keep both of their quarterbacks upright. I don't think the Giants will be able to beat the Seahawks. Yes, they were able to upset the Broncos, but Seahawks are going to be too tough for them. So Seahawks will win this one. When we went to Sunday Night Football, we have the rematch of the Super Bowl from last year where the Falcons will travel to Foxborough to take on the Patriots and probably will blow another lead, most likely. So I'm not going to say this is going to be a blowout, but I expect Patriots defense to start picking it up. They have been average or below average thus far in the season, but I think Belichick will figure something out eventually. Josh McCown let him up last week, so I don't expect Matt Ryan to do that just because Belichick will shore up that defense, bring it back to basics, play some zone. And, what can you say with number 12? He's going to beat Tom Brady. So, as for the Falcons, that defense should be faster than last year. They are, but I don't know why they're struggling so much. So, we'll see what happens. I don't expect them to win this week, but moving forward, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on the Falcons. Moving on to Monday Night Football, we have a great game where the Washington Redskins will travel to Philadelphia and take on the Eagles. Now, this is a surprise story for me at least. Eagles are 5-1. No one saw that coming. Carson Wentz has been great. The receiving core has been playing solid. The running game is still a little suspect. Blunt should get more carries, but we'll see what happens with that. As for the Redskins, Kirk Cousins has been on fire. He has barely any weapons to work with, except for Chris Thompson. Every time he's on the field, the ball's going to him. But other than that, the Redskins have been very solid. This is going to be a very good game in the NFC East. Both defenses are very similar. We'll see what happens, but I'm going to take the Eagles at home to take care of business. So, there you have it. Lock of the week was most definitely... Let's see, this is going to be hard. What do we got here? Let's go with the Cowboys taking on the 49ers. So, they'll be the lock of the week. And upset here is the Cardinals because the Rams are favored in that game. So, we'll see what happens. As always, like, subscribe, comment. I know this video ran a little too long because I was rambling on and on, but I'll try to work on lowering these lengths going forward. So, thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you for Week 8 picks, and good night.